Cops, as part of their civic duties, are expected to uphold the law and maintain order. However, that does not place them above the law. What happens when these very officers must be humbled for their unprofessionalism by judges? Here are times cops were held accountable and got humbled by judges in court.
I told Mr. Noel, don't do anything stupid. Do not try to deceive me, defy me. You will not like the consequences.
Let's begin with the court sentencing of former Indiana Sheriff Jamey Noel. The officer was held accountable and found in contempt of court after multiple firearms were discovered in his home, violating his bond conditions. Accused of embezzling millions of dollars in local funds for personal use, watch how the judge delivered a well-deserved sentence, humbling the former sheriff for his actions.
Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law. I find that you are in contempt of this court. Take him into custody. No, that's enough. I'll find you guys in contempt for disrupting the proceedings, and you'll be there right there with him. Now, what is an appropriate sanction? The question is, I can sentence him up to 180 days without a trial, or I can sentence him to a day, or I can release him. You know what I think the answer is? 60 days in. That's what I think the answer is today. Now, Mr. Wilder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or Mr. Boyles. I apologize, Mr. Boyles, your lead. Before he is released, I'll take your suggestion. I want an independent individual to scour that household to determine that there's no further weapons. I find it Mr. Hurdle's original argument that he was trying to make that I sustained, an officer of the law, every time I go into court, I hear, I didn't know it was there. I didn't know it was there. It really didn't. You've heard that a million times. You've heard it a million times, and yet you still take them into custody, would be my guess. Every officer in the world has heard, I didn't know it was there. It's my friends. I'm not buying it. It was your burden. It's your responsibility, and today the court will enforce that. Take him on.
But Sheriff Jamey Noel isn't the only officer to be held accountable for his actions, as we will see in the next case.
Your desire to change your plea from not guilty to guilty.
Do I have to answer that yes or no, or can I make somewhat of a statement?
That is a yes or no answer, sir.
In a Breckenridge, Kentucky court, former Sheriff Todd Pate faced charges for assault, DUI, criminal mischief, and fleeing the scene of an accident that injured 4 civilians. After being arrested with a blood alcohol level nearly twice the legal limit, Pate switched his plea from not guilty to guilty to avoid a potential 15-year sentence, opting for just 75 days in jail. All he had to do was plead guilty to Judge Janet Crocker. But during the hearing, Pate struggled with it. His position as sheriff weighed on him. Alas, no one is above the law. Here's what transpired during the court trial.
Will I have the opportunity to say anything further?
If it is your intention to change your plea from not guilty to guilty, certainly you'll have an opportunity to make any statement. But if it is not your intent to enter a guilty plea at this time, then I'm going to set your case for jury trial, and you're going to stop wasting my time and everybody else's time this afternoon.
Ma'am, I'm not trying to waste your time.
Then is it your intention to enter a guilty plea at this time or not, sir?
No.
Chambers, what is the Commonwealth's position at this time, sir?
Your Honor, we would move to revoke the defendant's bond at this time.
And see if we can sort this out. At this point in time, what is Mr. Pate's decision with respect to his guilty pleas?
So I believe I'll just let him answer that question if it pleases the court.
All right. So, Mr. Pate?
Can I say a few things, or?
I I need to understand what it is that we're doing here today, Mr. Pate.
Yes, I had every intention of coming in here today and entering a guilty plea. It's difficult for me to enter a guilty plea for a lot of reasons, and I don't want this court to think that I am trying to minimize any responsibility that I had in this situation that occurred. Very much bullied into doing something that's not right. And I want this court to know that Todd Pate holds himself responsible for everything that he did. It's hard for me to lay down and plead to felony charges that don't apply.
And today, to enter this guilty plea.
And if I could address...
This is either a yes or no. Are you going to enter your plea or not?
I guess everybody thinks it's funny. Let me just plea and get it over with for everybody. Plea to something that I absolutely do not feel good about, but I don't want you to try to send me to the penitentiary for years and years. If you can sleep with it, I can sleep with it.
I think we're done. Where I think we are today is that on the one hand, the Commonwealth can enforce the terms of this agreement based on the execution. Mr. Pate, I'm talking at this point in time.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
At this point in time, I'm going to sustain the Commonwealth's motion to revoke his bond. He will be taken into the custody and housed in the Breckinridge County Jail.
Your Honor, if I may speak to Mr. Chambers' motion to revoke the bond.
I've already ruled. I've already ruled at this point in time. We're done at this point in time. He's going into jail today.
Despite facing the law, Officer Todd Pate showed no remorse or respect for Judge Crocker, leading her to revoke his bond and have him taken into custody at Breckinridge County Jail. Eventually, Pate pleaded guilty, accepting a sentence of 75 days in jail with credit for time served. But the cop in the next case is yet another example of a corrupt officer finally being humbled in court.
Of January 28, 2015, where his life changed forever. He was stopped by the defendant, a then Inkster police officer, and his partner, Officer Zelenowski.
This is the humbling court sentencing of former Inkster police officer William Melendez. Convicted of assaulting a citizen, Floyd Dent, in 2015, Melendez faced a scathing rebuke from the judge. She left no stone unturned, highlighting the severity of his crime and emphasizing how disgraceful it was for a police officer. Her words left him speechless. Here's how the court interaction unfolded.
Mr. Dent was stopped for a minor traffic offense and ordered out of his vehicle. With his hands extended out of his driver's window, he was grabbed out, thrown to the ground, and struck 16 times in the head by the defendant. In his attempt to arrest him, he was thrown onto a window shield of a patrol car, bleeding profusely from a head injury. The responding police officers arrived as the defendant is wrestling the defendant to the ground. Mr. Dent was struck, kicked, and tased while on the ground by what appeared to be a group of angry, anxious police officers that celebrated after the defendant was beaten and cuffed. The video in the car shows the police officers fist bumping as a celebratory act of bravery by the defendant and his cohorts. But the one image that struck out to the court was looking at Mr. Dent in his cell, shaking his head. In disbelief of what had occurred to him. If his conduct was indicative of what he was thinking, I would have thought this: what crime did I commit? Being a black man in a Cadillac, stopped for a minor traffic offense by a group of racist police officers looking to do a nigger. As police officer John Zelenowski, auxiliary police officer, testified in court too, in his response to a text, was quoted as saying, "At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up niggas right now. LOL." How humiliating and degrading that must have been. He was left in a cell for a number of hours before getting medical treatment. But after hearing the defendant and his fellow officers joke about his injuries as they were wiping blood off their uniforms with disinfectant. 2015. Please be quiet in my courtroom. How does February 28, 2015, you did not fulfill your job. You performed Just Us, a game that began with a police stop. The purpose of it was to harass and degrade a motorist in Inkster. The man chosen for your game was Floyd Dent, a black man. The game went like this. Let's follow a car in a known drug area, and based on your years of training experience, you knew that the motorist would likely be a black person, no license, armed with a gun or drugs in the vehicle. Upon stopping Mr. Dent, you knew, and upon stopping Mr. Dent, who was dead wrong for driving with no license or license suspended, running stop signs, and weaving in and out of the back street, which the court saw on the video. You and your sidekick, auxiliary police officer Zelenowski, caught your prey. Upon being stopped, Mr. Dent put his hands out of the driver's window in plain view. Your partner and you pulled him out. When he didn't move fast enough for you, you refer to it as resisting. I call it bowing down to your command. You utilized your dirty, hairy tactics and used excessive force to arrest him. Your job was twofold. Investigate the situation, be a positive example to Officer Zelenowski. When your posse arrived, they joined you in the takedown, kicking and tasing and ultimately throwing Mr. Dent into a windshield of a police car with a dash cam, which I refer to as the eye of justice. You were so into your bravado that you forgot the eye of justice was watching you and recording this disgusting beating, seeing Mr. Dent slammed into the window shield with blood running down his face. The dash cam that was designed to protect you ended up being what convicted you. Fist busting after taking him down as a sign of bravery was just another cowardly act caught by the eye of justice. You knew better. You were better trained than any of those officers out there. You were more experienced. Took me several days to read the letters that people sent talking about your character, about the man that you are, about how you went in Westland and helped to save 3 senior citizens from a burning building. 3 of those letters, I believe, were from African Americans, and 1 even professed to be like a mother. 1 or 2 things, either they're all racist or there's something redeeming about you that somehow in some way you forgot that night. The way you denigrated that man was awful. Who would know and who would care about a lone black man being assaulted by upstanding police officers? Boy, were you wrong. They say that what you do in the dark will eventually come to light. And yes, it did. It became a worldwide example of what the police is not about, and that's brutality. At the station, the other eye of justice captured you and your posse making fun of Mr. Dent, mimicking him struggling while you all wiped the blood off your uniforms with disinfectant while he watched. such an awesome, caring, properly trained police officer, you led your fellow officers down a path of cowardly behavior. But today you will pay for it. You will pay for two things: not being an example of greatness, which I know that you are from all the letters of support, awards, and commendation that you have shared with this court, and resorting to cowardly acts of barbaric behavior that led you to be convicted of these crimes. There's an old saying, it ain't no fun when a rabbit's got the gun. It's equally applicable when he has the video. The eye of justice in this case. You betrayed your city, you caused your lovely wife heartache, and you caused Mr. Dent severe anguish. And finally, in the words of Vicki Yost, your commander, accountability is required to ensure continued community trust and healing. Today, I can only punish your conduct, but only you and God can change your character. I've had an opportunity to listen to both sides. And I had to say this because I didn't say this during the trial. But it was my privilege to be able to oversee this trial because I had great lawyers, and great lawyers make jobs real easy. At this time, I am going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections. However, after weighing the allegations in this particular matter and looking at all the circumstances, including what you've done and who the person I really believe that you are, I'm going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections as to count one for no less than 13 months, no more than 10 years. As to count two, I'm going to give you 90 days credit for time served and close it out. The court's going to give you 85 days for credit. You have 42 days to appeal my decision. That concludes this matter. Thank you.
William Melendez was ultimately sentenced to no less than 13 months and up to 10 years in prison. Now let's take a look at another police officer who received a humbling sentence for his unprofessionalism.
And sir, you are Eric Fritz?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're here today with your attorney, Mr. Grable. Have you had a full and complete opportunity to consult with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand that you face today a possible maximum penalty of 15 years in prison?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you ready for sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
As a police officer who took an oath to protect and serve the community.
This is the case of a former Covert Township police officer who finally faced justice for his misdeeds. The officer was convicted of rape and kidnapping, with the victim courageously testifying against him. The judge's verdict left no doubt about the gravity of his crimes, humbling him with a well-deserved sentence. Here's how the court delivered justice.
What you did to me was wrong. You raped me. You knew I was highly intoxicated, yet you used that as a selfish opportunity. My life has been forever changed. Every aspect of my life has been affected. My children have struggled. My friends, family, and loved ones have watched me through a year of hell. I can't see a police vehicle without feeling fear or be reminded of what happened. I made a poor decision to have too many drinks, putting myself in a vulnerable position. I don't remember leaving the bar that night. My friends had arranged for another person to drive my car, as I was far too intoxicated. I had no idea the driver was also intoxicated and would get pulled over by a police officer.
Mr. Fritz, anything you wish to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to apologize to my friends and family who I've actually let down. I'd also like to apologize for my coworkers who I embarrassed by my decisions. I'd also like to apologize to the people of Covert Township for my actions that night. And I absolutely would like to apologize for Ms. Noel for my horrific decision of offering her a hotel room. I never should offer her a hotel room in the first place. It never should have happened. I never should have put her in that situation.
Thank you, sir. You took a law enforcement oath of honor to protect and to serve and to uphold
the highest of ethical standards. Instead, he preyed upon and exploited and damaged a woman who was entirely helpless due to excessive intoxication. Even more disturbing to this court is the fact that you used your badge and the authority and power it grants you as a means to implement your criminality. You betrayed her, you betrayed your fellow officers, you betrayed mightily the public trust all of us had.
While Eric Fritz was sentenced to 1 year in county jail and 5 years of probation, he isn't the last cop to be humbled by a judge's sentencing. Let's take a look at this next case.
Was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
Testified to that today.
This is the case of Officer Michael Wagner, who took advantage of his position and lied in his police report. He falsely claimed that Lisa Gonzalez, a suspect, was driving under the influence, even though he never gave her a breathalyzer test. The judge saw right through his lies and delivered a powerful sentence, humbling Wagner for his actions. Here's how it all played out in court.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months for nothing. So are you going to null process that case? Or am I going to get mad?
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you to take him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge. This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they. You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
because you don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm
the
granting
other
the
charge.
JOA in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, the JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us.
But Michael Wagner isn't the only cop to be humbled by a judge's sentence, as we'll see in this next case.
Matthew Knutson, under the law, then you have an absolute right to address me concerning any matter on your mind or heart, as it becomes my responsibility shortly to pass judgment upon you and sentence you under the law. Is there anything you'd like to tell me, Mr. Knutson?
No, Your Honor.
And I guess I would just share with you that, my long family tradition has been in the public service and certainly in the protective services.
This is the humbling sentencing by Judge Donald R. Zoodmulder to 41-year-old Green Bay police officer Matthew Knutson. Knutson was convicted for hitting a suspect with his patrol vehicle while on duty and for attempting to cover it up by leaving the incident out of his initial report. Here's what Judge Donald had to say during the sentencing.
Well, the first thing I would hope is that you appreciate the embarrassment and shame that you've kind of brought upon yourself and your family. I give you, as I believe the state did, I give you the credit for a body of work. So you served your country faithfully. You served this community faithfully for many years. But then, like many human beings, you are imperfect. And all that imperfection manifested itself on an evening in which you chose a course of conduct which I assume you bitterly regret, and which has brought you where you are today, where you have now, I believe, forfeited a career that you loved and that you dedicated your life to. So that is, I think, punishment that the court really and the community acknowledges. But also, you are also symbolic of this. No one is above the law. And when you're entrusted with enforcing the law, or you're an attorney, or you're a judge, all of us must answer for our conduct. And if that conduct fails our community and violates the law of this state, then we have to be held accountable. And that's exactly what has happened here today. So I've listened carefully to the arguments of the attorneys. I'm satisfied that the recommendation of the state is reasonable under all the facts and circumstances of this case. So I will impose a $500 fine plus costs, which totals
$1,083.
$1,083. How much time do you wish to pay that, Mr. Knutson?
30 days. We have 45 days, please.
All right, I'll give him 90 days to pay it, just to make sure it all gets taken care of.
Thank you, sir.
All right, then I believe that concludes the matter today, Mr. Lassay?
It does, Your Honor.
As of reports from October 2023, Officer Matthew Knutson remains suspended from his position. But if you thought he was the last cop to get humbled by a judge, then you probably haven't seen this next case.
Job is winnable, obviously, for him day one, should he want to, or if they think it's better to develop him, it's not a big deal. That case, Keenum, go in and play for a little while.
And I think develop is the key word of all this. We talked a lot about William Melendez and his involvement in the draft. County 48-9 traffic stuff. First block of 50.
This dashcam footage captures the moment Lancaster County, Pennsylvania Judge Dennis Reinaker is pulled over for tailgating and honking at an East Lampeter Township officer in an unmarked police car. Watch as the judge uses his position of power to avoid any citation or warning.
Sir, go back into your car. I'll be with you in a second. You better check the registration on this plate soon, mister.
Yeah, 23 left. 23
Have a good day, Judge. You bet.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.